Greetings and welcome to Austin, Texas Gardening. It's a beautiful fall morning here in Austin, Texas. And we're back in my backyard garden, taking a look at my fruit trees, vegetables, plants in containers, and my in-ground garden bed. And this is a special video because this is the last day that I'm going to be living at this home. It's been a ton of fun over the past year and a half, planting our in-ground garden bed, getting these banana trees, and picking peaches from my peach tree. But the time has come to move on to greener pastures. My wife and I have bought a larger home in Manor, Texas with a bigger backyard, and so there's more space for more gardening projects and all sorts of fun stuff. But for today, we are moving on, and so I wanted to do one last final garden tour of all the things that we're growing today in my backyard. So it's late October. I think today's either the 26th or the 27th, and I am going to talk about this in-ground garden bed. I dug out this in-ground garden bed back in the summer of 2020. And as I mentioned in the video, it's my first YouTube video actually, where I discussed this in-ground garden bed. Just don't do this. It'd be way better to just do a raised bed. The chicken wire has been super successful, and don't get me wrong, I've grown a ton of things in this garden bed. We've done strawberries, cilantro, bell peppers, habaneros, jalapenos, brassicas like cauliflower and broccoli and celery, and it's been successful in that sense, but it's just too much work, and I think it's caused some problems with that peach tree over there as well. So we can actually start by talking about the peach tree. Because I have really dense clay soil and the garden bed is in ground, I have huge problems with drainage, and so this peach tree I think is getting some like root rot or something. As you can see, it dropped all of its leaves, and for example, the peach tree that's over there still has most of its leaves on it, and it didn't yellow out or orange up, and drop them. They just kind of fell off one by one, and then it decided to bloom. And so the GoPro doesn't do great close-ups, but this flower here has fruit growing in it. It is almost November, so this peach tree is extremely confused, and on top of that, you have like withered branches like this. This looks like I could snap it easily. There's no new growth on the tree either. Like this peach tree, I'll show you guys when I go and talk about that tree over there here in a moment, but this peach tree has no green wood on it at all, meaning I don't think it's going to grow any peaches next year. I think it's probably on its way out, and I don't want to dig it up and take it with me because it was kind of a package when we sold the house, a package deal that we'd leave anything in the yard, or everything in the yard. But I think the main reason for that, as I mentioned, is just the water pooling here and the dense clay soil not allowing it to drain properly. So this is a mistake I'm going to try to avoid at the new house, but you know, it's been a learning experience, this whole gardening project really, from the in-ground bed to everything else. And so most of what you see here that's green is a pumpkin vine. In June, I planted about 20 pumpkin seeds and thinned them out to being about 6 total. Of the 6, just 1 grew, and everything you're seeing here is from just 1 seed. The vine that's growing starts right there and wraps all the way around the garden bed and back around that way. And so I made a video recently about pollinating pumpkin plants. If you want to see that video, just go and look it up. It's about a month old at this point, so like late September. Not exactly sure what the upload date is, but I just described the difference between, for example, this here is a male flower, and these ones with the little bulbs on them are female flowers. The bulb is the ovary. And I was just explaining how to hand pollinate your pumpkins, because often pumpkins and all sorts of squash will have pollination issues. But we've had some success with this plant. We've got 2 lovely pumpkins right here and a third over here. It's starting to finally orange up just a bit. And so Halloween's coming up, obviously. I think our new homeowners will be delighted to see some pumpkins in the backyard. Now, this vine isn't without problems. I think it has some sort of mildew on it that's causing blight. As you can see here, like compare these very green greens on the new growth versus this white. That's not just sunlight either. The sunlight might be amplifying it, but this white, it's kind of like a powdery mildew. And obviously the even older leaves are just brown and falling apart. But you know, it's hard to really grow anything without quality pesticide and fungicide, and I don't use anything. This is totally organic. I haven't even used orange oil, which is super organic, but like I've had problems with all sorts of pests. The only pest control I've used is beer to catch slugs in the spring that are trying to eat my strawberries and whatnot. But yeah, it just means, you know, I deal with a lot of fungus and predators and whatnot. But we still get fruit. We still get vegetables. So over here, I have my habanero plants, and you can see they're doing great. Like, these plants are putting off peppers. They're loving this rainy, wet fall. To them, it's basically spring. And they're doing awesome. We're going to leave those in the ground. And also part of the reason why we have this cage here, because I'm sure my dog would eat those peppers if she could get access to them, and they might kill her because they're just so hot. So really important if you have kids or a pet and you're growing any type of hot peppers, you got to have them in a cage. This is what's left over from our cilantro plant when we harvested all our coriander a couple months ago, and it looks like I dropped some seeds because I see some cilantro growing here. Obviously, this whole bed desperately needs to be weeded. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that to the new homeowners to do in the spring if they'd like to. But as I mentioned, it's really been a huge learning experience, and I'm excited to see where we go forward from this. In the corner over here, we have this banana plant. Now, I planted this on Memorial Day. It was just a tiny little sapling at the time, and you can see how much it's grown in really not that much time. It's been about 5 months at this point, and that second companion plant just came off of the root ball, so just grew naturally, and it's been doing great. I also planted this other banana plant, which is doing well. Not as good as the others. I think, again, some drainage issues, maybe gets a little bit too much sunlight, but it's growing, and I'm gonna make a totally separate video. I'm not a weatherman, but on winter predictions. I'm not expecting a winter as bad as last one, but one even almost as bad as last one would easily kill these banana plants. And they, of course, will grow back, but these grew back after last winter storm. It's just that they're not. This isn't Florida, you know. Like growing banana plants is fun, but they're gonna get punished. And then finally, we have our peach tree over here. And so this peach tree is doing awesome. It's very, I don't want to say it's very healthy, but it's healthy. It put off about 50 peaches last spring. And you can see it's got new growth on here that once was green and is now starting to kind of turn red, which it's supposed to do. That new growth is where all the peaches for next year are going to be growing. And so I think our new homeowners are going to get some peaches, and they were really excited about this tree. I can kind of see that some of the blue bonnets I planted around the base put out their seeds, and the seeds think that it's spring. I think it's going to look lovely. A beautiful Texas peach tree here. Moving on, we have these plants on the patio. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to be able to take anything in the in-ground bed. Obviously not going to be able to take these trees with me, but all this stuff on the patio is going to be able to come with us. And I'm really excited about that because these plants have a lot of sentimental value to me. These 3 pineapple crowns up front are pineapple crowns that my wife and I got in Hawaii during our anniversary honeymoon trip. And they were about 6 inches tall when I got them, really tiny. I planted them in these 5-gallon Home Depot paint buckets with holes drilled in the bottom for drainage, and they're doing great. It's been maybe 5 or 6 months since I planted them, and they won't put out fruit until about the 18th month, so I have about another year to go. You can see it looks like I dropped the coriander in here and have some cilantro trying to grow out of this as well. But these pineapples are great. I'm gonna have to get a grow light for them and put them in my garage. Otherwise, they obviously can't tolerate the winter freezes. I've heard some people say that a light freeze, these will do fine in ground, but again, it was 1 degree Fahrenheit at my house this last winter, and I don't think it's gonna be that cold again, but it might be, honestly. Climate change is real, and I think if you've lived in Texas for 30 years, you know, it's a totally separate video, but like I'm seeing the signs. The past 5 years have been radically colder than the average. And so over here, we have one of my sweet potato plants. And the reason it's in the lawn like this is because Unfortunately, some fire ants got to it. If I shake the container a little bit, they might come out and you can see what I'm talking about. I don't know if that's showing up on camera. My GoPro does a really bad job of zooming, but this pot is completely full of ants. And I'm probably gonna have to throw the whole thing away, or, I mean, honestly, that's exactly what I'm gonna have to do. It's just a total disaster, and it's very sad. But I have had some success with this over here. This is another one of my my sweet potato buckets, and I just cut off this top of the sweet potato, and you can see I've scooped some dirt away here, and I very clearly have a whole bunch of sweet potatoes in this container. If I turn the bucket upside down, you can't see any tubers at the bottom there, but I'm excited to empty out this container and see what we've got in total. We also have some habaneros in terracotta pots over here, and they're not doing as good as the ones in the garden bed because obviously they don't have as much space to spread their roots out, but we are getting some peppers, and maybe these peppers are just really, early on in forming. But we're going to take these to the new place, get them in a nice raised bed, and I think we might get some peppers. We might even just, excuse me, thought I was about to sneeze. We might even just leave these in containers until the spring, honestly. Just put them under a grow lamp in the garage or something so that they stay safe. And then finally, we have these avocado plants in these large containers. I forget the volume of these containers, but they're 16 inches high by 15.6 inches wide. So you can do the math. And this avocado sapling is almost 3 feet tall now. I planted this I started the seed in July of 2020. And it's a little over a year old now and still putting out new growth. It looks like it's doing great. I've been told some of these plants won't actually put out fruit for a decade. So I'm gonna put this under a grow lamp in my garage and see if maybe we can pull it through another winter. But the reality of the situation is just, I will probably never see fruit from this plant. It's very difficult to grow. It's more of just a sentimental thing because this is one of the first plants that I grew from a seed, and I want to see how long we can keep it going. And part of the reason I say that I don't think I'm going to actually see fruit from this is, for example, this is a pineapple that why do I keep saying pineapple? This is an avocado that I started this last spring. And I've been told there might be an iron deficiency in the soil, might be some other problems, but you can just see these leaves are dropping and withering. I think it might also be getting too much sunlight, just because of the way the sun hits it on the patio here. And it's just been a struggle in general. But I'm excited to take these plants with me and see what we can do for them at the new place. It's been a ton of fun gardening over the past year and a half. And saying goodbye to our backyard garden is bittersweet, but also really inspiring because I've learned so much. Our backyard garden is 16 feet along that wall there and 40 feet along the main wall. And our new backyard is probably about 10 times bigger. It's also not sloped like this one is, and the soil seems to be slightly better quality than the clay soil we have here. I'm on a 0.1 acre lot at this house, and our new home is a 0.2 acre lot. So I'm excited for all the different things we'll be able to do with fruit trees, and we're going to make a fire pit for like an entertaining space, and I should do some videos on some of those things, so stay tuned. But first, we're going to go take a look at what's going on in the front yard. So this is my tiny suburban front yard. And in this garden bed, I once grew onions, a ton of tomatoes, a bunch of different things, peppers and stuff. But you can see I've really tried to increase the, I don't know what term I'm looking for, the easiness to sell my home. The curbside appeal is the word I'm looking for of this garden by putting in this horrible black wood chip mulch and these flowers. It just looks a lot more aesthetically pleasing than a bed full of weeds and wildflowers and tomatoes. It's disappointing because I would prefer food rather than a manicured little garden bed full of nothing. But I'm sure the new homeowners can do with it what they'd like. I'm kind of disappointed with these fruit trees here. It's a point of regret, honestly, that I never did a quality video about this fig tree here. This fig tree has been growing here for over a year. It's had cameos in several other videos. In my winter frost protection guide, I showed how I covered it, and as you can see here, it's putting out about half a dozen figs. none of which I'm ever going to get to enjoy because they're not ripe yet, and we're leaving tomorrow. But I hope another person can enjoy this fig tree. I hope it grows great, and I'm never going to, I mean, the most I would do is like drive by in the future and just check on it. I'm never doing a video on this fig tree again. I wouldn't film another person's house. That's creepy. But this fig tree is a brown turkey fig tree. I will definitely try growing another one in the future, and we'll just have to see how that turns out. The olive tree is honestly probably one of the biggest recovery stories. During the winter storm, I made a video about how much it recovered, and it's grown even more since that video. During the winter storm, it almost completely died, and if I pull back the leaves here, you can see that there, those sticks, is what was left of the first olive tree. And so it's almost totally grown back, and it looks like it's doing great. It hasn't put out any olives yet, but it probably will in the future. That's just going to be something I'm not going to get to see. And then just finally, this Fuji apple tree here. I planted it anticipating that it was self-pollinating, but it's not. And that's hopefully a lesson I'll learn from. I hope that the new homeowners enjoy it, but that's just something that we're not going to get to see what the end of the story is. All of that being said, I would say that I've been on YouTube for a little over a year now, and I've been gardening for about 18 months, and it's been an awesome learning experience. I am super excited for our new home. My wife and I are getting ready to grow our family, and so it's going to be a ton of new wonderful adventures, and we have more money now. So that's more money to spend on peach trees and tomato grow bags and all sorts of awesome backyard orchard stuff. But we're moving to Manor. So I'm not changing my channel name. We're going to remain Austin, Texas Gardening. But it's only like 9 minutes away from here, 4 minutes outside of Austin. But a lovely suburban setting where we're going to have all sorts of new gardening projects. So stay tuned, and thanks again for watching Austin, Texas Gardening.